Yo, what's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to the 10-Minute Mailbag, the MLB The Show series, where I, of course, take your questions and I answer them. Very easy concept here, but this series cannot exist without you. So if you have questions for me, leave them down below or join the Discord and leave them there. Let's get to it. So apologies in advance. This is all you're going to see on the screen today. I am winning 1-0 in the top of the first of a weekend classic game, and it froze on a Terry Pendleton foul tip. I have been frozen at this point for roughly 90 minutes, and Pofect, which is a fun name, to be fair, won't leave. I understand that freeze-offs are not anybody's fault, necessarily, but it is a general unwritten rule in the MLB The Show community that if you're losing in a freeze-off, especially after 90 minutes, you just pull the plug and quit. The reason I'm not quitting is because I am close to an 1100 rating, and I'd really like that 50 bundle, but that's neither here nor there. Whatever, you're here for the 10-minute mailbag. Perfect, if you're a listener, again, love your name, very funny. Quit the damn game. Thank you. Here we go to the mail. First question today comes from D. Binkley, the homie. So let's get started. 3, 2, 1. Begin. With the recent bans for playing against bots, does SDS need to revisit the way they ban players? Maybe institute a human review before confirming the full ban or adding a tier system. One offense equals a week ban, for example. It just seems a little odd that playing against a bot carries the same penalty as buying third-party stubs, which some could argue has a greater negative impact on the game in SDS. Yeah, listen, I'm a PlayStation player. I know a lot of the bans came across on Xbox because that's where a lot of the bots are. I don't want to comment too much on the bans because it's a very touchy subject. And I get why. There are people who create content whose livelihoods or side hustles are now in question, and there are plenty of casual fans and players of the game, more than content creators, who now can't hop on and play the game they like because they unfortunately ran into a bot account and they're not maybe as well versed in how everything works as we are because we live this game, and now they're screwed. So what I will say in regards to the bans is that I think the process is unfortunate. There are for sure some people, and I don't even know in my head who, I'm not singling people out, I'm just saying generally, there are for sure some people who probably deserved a ban. And then there are other reasons to be banned, like boosting, account sharing, third-party stub purchasing, like you said. But largely, most of the player base that got banned probably didn't deserve it. I do think there should be some sort of first, second, third offense type of situation. Maybe just first offense, second offense. First offense being that 1 week ban, like you mentioned, I think is pretty smart. It's essentially a warning. If it happens again, you're out. I wish that it was communicated better rather than just dropping bans on these people and then not even bringing it up. It wasn't mentioned anywhere. There was no, like, here's how you appeal. Unfortunate, I will say. Now, again, in situations like these, it's not everybody's a victim. There are for sure people guilty of doing things that should not be done. But the fact that it just goes from 0 to lifetime ban or 365-day ban, I think that's what it is. That ain't great. In my opinion, that ain't great. So if you're someone who was banned, I feel for you. I truthfully don't know the correct next step. Reach out to SDS, submit a ticket, see what can be done. The answer might be nothing, and that sucks quite poorly. Like, sucks a lot. But yeah, that's where I'm at with the bans. It's tough to speak too definitively about it without having all of the information myself, just because everybody's situation is going to be different. And the last thing I want to do is speak ill of people that didn't know they were doing something wrong or didn't necessarily take advantage of the system. It just stinks all around. If it was all about bots, SDS should have gotten rid of the bots. That's simple. SDS should have gotten rid of the bots, not the players. That easy. But moving on to the next question. Thank you, of course, for yours. From Brian. What type of hardware do you use or recommend? Specifically, things like precision rings, control freaks, wireless versus wired, etc. So I play on PlayStation, as I've said. I use the very expensive edge controller. I just like it. I like being able to set my hitting and pitching profiles. I always play wired. Always, 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 always. I think it helps a minuscule amount, but it's better than it hurting. And the last thing you want, sorry, I'm in a knot here, so I'm speaking while unknotting. The last thing you want is a crucial play late in the game, and let's say you're not plugged in, and then your battery dies, and you lose all control. So this also helps from that perspective. I also use, kind of hard to see, let's get it to focus here. There we go. A purple P-ring. I've upgraded to purple. I was using green, but I actually feel like purple's been helping. And I use I think this is the low-rise Galaxy Control Freak. It's hard to get it to focus. Focus on me. There we go. Not a sponsor of Control Freak, though I have submitted a partner application. Let's keep our fingers crossed. But Control Freak stuff is good. Precision rings, Control Freaks, got those. Wireless was wired, got that. In terms of other hardware, be playing on a monitor if you can. I know that's not in your your question there, but play on a monitor if you have the ability to. You automatically become better, I promise. Also, if you notice every so often in the bottom portion of the screen, Terry's fingers wiggle. There it is, right there. Little wiggle for Terry. He's alive. It's frozen, but he's alive. Moving on to the next question from Dan. Can you talk about specific pitchers or types of pitchers being better on a specific difficulty level? He's a newer player, and he hears people say stuff like, pitcher X is fine if you're on All-Star. I understand the concept for hitting because of vision, but not for pitching. So, pitching is a weird one. Pitching at any level is all about feel. I do how to pitch with videos every Thursday. Sometimes I'm really good with pitchers that others aren't. Sometimes I'm really bad with pitchers that people are great with. It's all about feel. You have to be in a rhythm and feel comfortable with whatever pitcher you're using. But generally speaking, guys who throw softer, Greg Maddux, for example, the new Greg Maddux, are going to be worse on slower pitch speeds because they just kind of feel like batting practice. And dotting locations is not a huge benefit on a lower difficulty because you have more time to get your PCI to those corners that you're dotting. Whereas Greg Maddux on Legend is probably going to be really, really, really good because the pitches are so fast and the PCIs are so small that his lack of velocity does not hurt him there as much. Other than that, in my opinion, that's really what it comes down to. Like, All-Star difficulty is an interesting mix of players. And I do not say this in a derogatory way. But people who play ranked primarily on All-Star are either, people who really struggle to get past that threshold and get to Hall of Fame. Or they don't play a ton of ranked, so they're just in All-Star, but they're good players. So it's kind of a mixed bag. You never know what you're getting on All-Star. Sometimes you have people who just hit piss rods all day, and they're just All-Star warriors. Sometimes you have people a little newer to the game and aren't great. So, like, Outlier, for an example, works against those people. But against All-Star Warriors, Outlier ain't doing shit. It's an interesting mix. But generally speaking, if it's a pitcher with a slower speed, like Jim Cott is on my screen, for example, you ain't pitching Jim Cott on All-Star. At least I don't recommend it. Again, it's feel. You might be good with Jim Cott and then keep going. If you are, good. But for me, I ain't using Jim Cott on All-Star because I think he's going to be batting practice. He throws all junk, all breaking pitches, and it's just a matter of picking the right pitch and hitting it. That's how I interpret that. Anybody else who has more to add to it, please feel free, add in the comments. But that's kind of my vantage point. I play 90%, 95% of my online games on Hall of Fame. I haven't played a lot of BR this year. I don't play events. Ranked is Hall of Fame for me. So, generally speaking, all pitchers are on the table. And I do think all pitchers equally stink on Hall of Fame, if we're being honest. But that's where I approach it, or that's how I approach it. Excuse me. Thank you for your question. And thank you for being new to the channel because you're new to the game. I hope you enjoy. Are we focused here? I'm having real focus issues with my camera. Or maybe I'm just going blind. I don't know. Our last question today from Saul in the Discord. What are the benefits gained by the various pitching cameras? I once heard that it makes the most sense to use the same batting and pitching cameras so you can recognize the various pitches when hitting. And that made sense. But I see a low percentage of high-caliber players actually following that advice. So you have to remember, too, a lot of the high caliber players, like the content you're watching, people are trying to present the best entertainment experience. Personally, the way I ingest this content, I don't want to see the same angle. I like watching pitchers from behind the pitcher, like a baseball broadcast. I use the pitching camera called pitcher. I just prefer it. I like seeing it from that angle. It just works for me. It's a comfort thing. Ultimately, it's the same as hitting, really. It's about finding the camera you pitch best in. You know, if you want to see more pitches, if you're struggling at the plate and you want to improve as a hitter, maybe you should pitch from the hitter angle. So you could just see more pitches. You could see how they move. You could see how pitches interact better. For me, I have just always pitched from either pitcher or broadcast. They're essentially the same thing. Some stadiums don't have good broadcast angles, so I switch it to pitcher. But default, I've lately just been pitcher. I don't know why. I really don't know the advantage of it, to be perfectly honest. I don't think either has an advantage. There's no such thing as an advantage in terms of camera angle for pitching. For hitting, yeah, like strike zone 2, strike zone high, like those all mean something different and give you a different perspective for your PCI. But pitching, it's just tracing. Or you're doing meter, which doesn't change depending on your angle. So it's all about personal preference. I see the advice angle of it as well. Seeing more pitches theoretically will make you better. But I don't know if it's ever really impacted anything for me. It's all, I guess, how you learn. Everyone learns differently. I would just stick to the pitching camera if I'm being honest, but that's just me. Shout out to you guys for making it to the end of another 10-minute mailbag, and shout out to Perfect for still being in this damn game. I'm upset. I'd like to continue my weekend classic experience, but I'd also not like to sacrifice rating points here when I'm so close to a free 50 bundle. So, fingers crossed. Hopefully by the time you guys see this Monday morning, I have moved on. Yeah. So, thank you guys. Love you guys. See you next time.